at the end of the day, for those looking for success in their career, for those looking for success in finances, relationships, like doing the deep hard work, it just has that reciprocating effect, and like the ripple effect, right? That leads into all other areas of your life. So
And the deep work means bringing in experts. It
yeah,
means like with my addiction, it
it
was I had a therapist specifically for certified sex addiction therapist. My
yep.
wife had therapists for betrayal trauma, right? The person that I'm coaching and helping is getting an anxiety therapist. It's like you
Mhm.
really want to get specialized with the thing
Mhm.
that you struggle with and get the help that you need. I have a financial advisor. I have a fitness coach specializing in calisthenics based on the goals I want,
Mhm.
right? There's a spiritual coach. Like there's so much help and so much resources, but it starts with humility that someone can say, on my own, I'm not happy. Yes, I'm a coach. Of course, I want more people to get coaches, but fundamentally, I want more people to actually invest in themselves because that's where the magic happens is when you put your money where your
Mhm.
mouth is. Because
Mhm.
most people watching videos or listening to podcasts, they're not going to make the changes need or do the deep work. They're going to say, oh, that sounds good. And then they move on, right? They don't really like it's having another person with you and guiding you through the journey who's been where you are today.
Been
That
there.
that's where the power is. That's where the magic happens.
It just like when you think about it, conceptually, it doesn't make sense trying to figure it out on your own.
But that's what most people
Like
do. That's what
why?
most people do.
Yeah, yeah.
Literally.
Like there's a sense of pride, I think that comes with that. Like myself included, back in the day, wanting to just figure things out on my own. But ultimately, I'm sitting here thinking like I have always been learning from somebody who's been there, right? Whether it was the first time I ever picked up the phone to make a cold call, right? I had the woman, Susie Nelson, who gave me the opportunity to do it and talked me through exactly what to do when I picked up the phone. It was, when I got into AA, it was I had a sponsor that had been through
Right.
the steps, that
And
had
you
been
had
through,
peers. You had peers
right,
that you talked to. You had meetings. And all what do
right,
they say? Work the steps, work the program.
right.
Just that. It's that
And,
simple. This is not
and
rocket science. It's worked
there's the
for everyone before.
guidance, there's the steps, and there's the execution, you actually doing the
Right.
thing too, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
it's like, you get into, for me, like the professional world. And then it was, I hired a coach for the first time, and that was scary, right? That was a big financial commitment, one bigger than one I've ever made. And then I ended up getting my own client from that coaching experience that
Mm.
paid 3x of what I initially paid for that. I joined your coaching program, and I made back my money in my first month from a deal
Beautiful.
that I closed.
You're up at the near the top of my referral. So I got your picture up there and and you were
Yeah,
in the silver program, which was awesome, right?
right.
Because it's like I always get worried about the silver program because our renewals at the gold program where it's one-on-one are like 80%. The silver
Mm.
is like 20%, right? Because
Well, it
people are
comes
like,
down
no,
to what are you doing with it, right? Are you showing
that's
up
right.
to the Wednesday meetings? Are you actually digging into the curriculum? Are you like anytime I had a question, I go straight into the course and say, all right,
Mhm.
well, what's the expert saying? Right. Well,
That's
maybe
right.
I should just replicate this.
You used it. You went
Yeah.
through the whole course, which is why I
Yeah.
was like, good for
Yeah.
you, right? You
It was like the
go on
first
and
POV I ever actually wrote out. I wrote it out. I wrote out this email that was based on a template that you had done, and I like conceptually understood what you were doing. I tailored it to my own message, and I'm like, cool. I have it written out. I'm not going to send this email, but I'm going to just call now that I've actually thought through everything. Let me see if I can get this guy. And sure enough, he answered the phone, and I'm like, no shit. This I've been working this deal for months, and it was like the champion was getting nowhere. I felt like I was out resourced with everyone else that, point of contacts within the deal. So I just went straight to the CEO and just, put a very well tailored, I probably spent a couple hours, writing this thing out, putting all the pieces together. He answered, the call dropped because he was like stepping into an elevator, and I'm like, no shit, I got to call him back. So I called him right back, and I'm like, yo man, and just gave him my spiel. We were closed in 8 hours, for the next morning, and that commission check paid for the course.
that's
So it was
amazing.
like, yeah, so it's like, why reinvent the wheel when there's,
You did it though. You went in
yeah,
and you applied it. It's all about
yeah,
going in, learning, and applying,
yeah,
right? That's how you get the results. And again, because you applied it,
mm,
right? He picked up the phone and you were rewarded for
hmm,
applying it. You saw
hmm,
the immediate um gratification of
yeah,
the work, but it's not that call. That call took 30 seconds or a couple
hmm,
minutes, right? It was
hmm,
it was the 2 hours of creating the point of view, and it was all probably the 10 hours, 15 hours of diving into the course material to learn how to create the point of
And
view that
showing up to the
led.
Wednesday calls to even
Yeah,
hear
that's
people
right.
talk about what is a POV. I didn't even know what that
Yeah,
was. I'd never heard
that
the
led
term.
you to be able, that led
Right.
you to be able to have the confidence to pick up the phone and call a CEO and to
Right.
write out all the stuff. Like that's the power of it. Like don't reinvent the wheel with whatever you're working on. And the person that is committed to growth and takes action is the person that becomes very wealthy and very successful in their career
Mhm.
and very, you know, committed in their marriage and very healthy with their fitness. So it is about becoming a person who is humble and who's continuously trying to grow. Like there's
Mhm.
three things that make up a happy person. In every study on happiness ever done, it always comes down to three things. The first is relationships. It's the people in our lives, having relationships that matter to us and making time for those relationships and investing in
Mhm.
those relationships. That's
Mhm.
always number one by leaps and bounds, having close relationships. Number
I agree.
two is growth. It's actually people that feel like they're getting better
Mhm.
all the time, growing. You're either growing or you're dying. When you're growing mentally, physically, and spiritually, right, getting stronger, getting smarter, and getting closer to God, you feel continuously fulfilled because you're always getting better, and it's super rewarding to grow. And the third is service or contribution, right? Feeling like what
Mhm.
you're doing is making an impact. That's why you have this podcast. That's why I'm doing it now, right? I charge $2,000 an hour, right, for my new pricing model.
Mhm.
We're here. We'll talk for hours. Why? Because this is fills my cup. It fills my cup to be able to serve and help people
Mhm.
that genuinely probably aren't going to coach with me, who aren't ready for that level of transformation, but want to know what to do. Right.
Mhm.
So I go on podcasts, I post on LinkedIn, I give on YouTube, I give as much as I can because it's very rewarding and fulfilling. I love making videos. I love making content because it helps me help other people. So contribution, service, and connection, those three things, when you can infuse that into your every single day life, you're always growing, you have good relationships that you can lean on, and you're you know, contributing and serving other people, and you feel genuine in how you're doing it from a place of service, not selfishness. You live a very, very fulfilling, happy, rewarding life.
Mm. Thank you for coming on also.
You're welcome.
And everybody listening, you know, and I know genuinely appreciates it. And I haven't gotten paid $1 from this podcast. I got no ads on it. I got nothing that I'm selling on here to just strictly coming on because, you know, it started out as like a, a passion. It was something that I'd always been curious about, you know, and then it was like, well, it's time to stop thinking about doing this thing and actually pick up the microphone and do it, you know. And I got this little
Right.
USB mic that sat on the back shelf for, you know, I bought it. That was a monumental moment. Sat on the shelf, collected dust for a couple months, and then one day I had you know, a breakthrough moment where I thought about, you know, maybe I should open up the box and actually plug this microphone in and, you know, turned it on and hit record and you know, here we are.
And now you have more than a USB mic. Now you got the mic of all mics sticking
Yeah.
out. What's funny is this is my first mic, and I asked you how it sounded. I don't want to mess up the mic, but it's right here. This is my first USB little mic
Yep.
right here. Nothing to it. Now it's my Lake Arrowhead backup mic. I have my other one in El Segundo where I live, but I just came to Lake Arrowhead. I have a little portable studio, and it's so easy to get started. I got started
Yeah.
with a cell phone making Instagram 1 minute reels, and if anyone wants I wouldn't even tell you. Go on my YouTube if you want to watch some great training video because it's gotten way better since then. But if you want to see the origin story, go back
Mm.
on my Instagram, go to the reels, and you'll see from the very beginning how I started. It's like I just said, I just want to help people. I had a near-death experience. I hope I can help a few people. And
Yeah.
that thing
Yeah.
blew up. It grew,
Mm.
and those videos had
Mm.
hundreds of people, thousands of people sometimes watching them, and
Mm.
it feels good to be giving back in a way that you can in the capacity that you're able to at the present moment.
And just to relate to people that are real people in the real world, right? And you know, I think,
Totally.
you know, just like another aspect to that, like for anybody listening, you know, individuals that you follow, whether it's, you know, influencers or whether it's people you look up to, mentors, coaches, whatever, like go back and look at their oldest videos or their oldest content, right? Everybody started somewhere.
That's right.
And, you know, I think I go and think back to like those first couple episodes and they were so bad and it was so good at the same time because it was the process of doing something
Yeah.
that we enjoyed and loved. And now look at where it leads to. You know, you never
Right.
know where it's going to like you and I are having a conversation right now
And you
because
had
of,
Dan Martell on the contest,
yeah,
you're on the show, and
yeah,
you are in my group, and now you're,
it's really amazing.
you're at the next level of your career, and
Yeah.
have executive coach and a therapist. I mean,
Hmm.
I was curious to ask you, are there
Yeah.
commonalities between the therapist and the executive coach? Are any of the themes being touched similar to therapy by the executive coach, or are
He's
they?
the same person. So he does executive coaching and
Oh,
therapy work. So he's an executive coach for
got it. Same.
like
Okay.
high functioning, high achievers, but then he's got quite some life experience behind him to do some
Yeah.
very therapeutic, deep, soul driven
It's
work.
very, it sounds
So
very similar to what I do.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
very,
very
very
similar,
similar. And it's
very
because he's
similar.
gone through the shit himself and he's rose from the
That's the
ashes
thing,
stronger.
Ian. It's
That's the
like
thing.
you talking to people that have been through it,
Hmm.
like that's the only way to like truly like be able
Good
to
for you,
really
man.
really serve, and that's where the opportunity is for other people too, is to not go through these experiences that are hard and challenging, but grow through them. Because when we decide to not go, but grow through them, that ultimately allows us to do the hard things that we can then inevitably help other people with, because there's always going to be people who are walking in the footsteps that you've walked through. And so it just is this like cyclical way of giving back and service. Um, so
Yeah, yeah, it's much easier. Again, for me, I get to do this every day. It's like
yeah.
when people tell me where they're at, I'm like, I've been there, whether it's that
Hmm.
imposter syndrome, whether it's that
Hmm.
guy who can't work the afternoons because his
Hmm.
energy's not where it needs to be, or
Hmm.
whether it's the shame of not feeling worthy. Like I did a keynote called "You Are Not Your Number" a couple years ago for sellers that were, you
Hmm.
know, felt like their whole self-worth was only based on their performance. And um, I just sent it to him. I said, "Here you go." And it's like
Hmm.
that's the thing. It's like you have to walk. It's not authentic for anyone who has a business that's coaching or wants to write a book or serve people. Like you have to serve the person you once were.
Hmm.
That's the only way it works, is if you
Hmm.
can teach where you were at, what you did to get out of it, and then give people that playbook, because
Yep.
otherwise it's not, it's not real.
Hmm. What a conversation. Wasn't expecting it to go any of this routes, but that's the
Yeah,
beauty
me neither.
of a conversation,
Talking
right?
about spinal trauma storage and
Yeah,
nervous
man.
system. But that's real. That's what I've been working on recently. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to touch base. And I hope it's valuable for everyone to hear
Yeah.
some of this stuff and take it seriously, because your
Hmm.
life will change when you face
Hmm.
your darkness and when you shine a light on the areas that have always been with you, but you've never faced head on.
Hmm. And I think I'll just double down on that for anybody listening, that at any point in time during this podcast or conversation, if you have felt, man, maybe I should pick up the phone and call that individual and make amends, or maybe I should write out these things on a piece of paper that have been in my head trapped for so long, or maybe I should call that coach or that therapist or get into a program or do something, right? Or go on a
Mhm.
walk, or anything that you have felt called to at any point in this time. I just want to encourage you to go
Just,
tap back into that.
just in the past 2 days,
Hmm.
real talk right now,
Hmm.
is one guy confessed to me about the porn. Now he's telling his wife and
Hmm.
putting basically amends with her that he's not going to do
Hmm.
that. Um, First time ever in his whole
Hmm.
life. Next guy was hiding financial debt from his wife, right? Talking to her, you know, facing his demons and opening up, right?
Hmm.
And the third one was dealing with this anxiety. Now he's got an anxiety therapist and going to this men's work. That's just in the 2 days. So all of it is about taking action and
Hmm.
facing the thing, whether it's the
Hmm.
secret that you're ashamed of, or whether it's the hiding of the finances and the debt
Hmm.
from your partner, or something else. Like the only way to really, in my opinion, my strong opinion, to live the life of your dreams is to live an honest life where you face yourself and you do this work, and then you, once you've done that, you feel whole, and then you could be honest moving forward,
Hmm.
right, versus
Hmm.
living a lie. And
Hmm.
so for me, that's the theme across all
Hmm.
three of it, is like being honest with yourself, being real with yourself, and then doing something about it.
Hmm.
So this ain't easy. Like telling your wife you're hiding, tax bills, or telling your wife you're watching porn, or going to a men's retreat for 4 days to, like, release a lot of this 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 anxiety. Like these are big steps that
hmm
all of my clients are taking because they have to. It's not a
hmm
question. They have to. You have to
hmm
face it, or else it's going to face you.
hmm And
Like that addiction quote that you said, right?
yeah, and couple things on that is
Tim Grover behind you talks about that. He
yeah,
talks about that. I
yeah.
met Tim Grover, by the way,
At
right? The book right
that
behind it.
event.
Yeah, Winning. Actually, is that
Yep.
the name? That's not his main book. What's the other book that he has?
Relentless or
Relentless.
relentless.
That's the one
Mhm.
that I read. I met Tim Grover several years ago, and I was hiding stuff, right? And I think doesn't
Mm,
he call it the dark side?
yeah.
Or what is he? I think he says the dark side. He talks about Jordan's dark side and Kobe,
Kobe.
and I asked Tim Grover, and I said, Tim, what happens if you don't face your dark side? What if can you be your best without facing your dark side? He's like, Ian, if you don't face your dark side, it will face you and it will destroy
Mm,
you. And within a couple of weeks, that's when my stuff came out, and that's when we had to go to the hospital because I thought we'd have a miscarriage. And my wife was so traumatized, and like that was my rock bottom. And it was like crazy. And it was right after that. And it's like it will always come out. You cannot push this shit away forever. It will always come out to haunt
it
you.
has to go somewhere.
Yeah, it will take you, like you said, you can't take it to your grave. It will take you to your grave
Right.
if you don't face yourself. So we're
Right.
talking about life and death, really. We
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah. We are. We are. And again, going back to, some of the major points that we're making is those weren't my words. That is what I was told from somebody who's been there.
Tim
Right. And
Grover. Yeah,
yeah. Right.
it was literally,
Right.
I read all that stuff. I'm like, I'm the top guy, but I got this dark side. Like these top guys, these
hmm
top gals, the highest performers are always like, they got this chip, they got this need to prove people wrong, and it fucking kills them. It really
hmm
does. And for
hmm
me, it was addiction. For my guy, it's anxiety, right? For
hmm
Tiger Woods, it was extramarital affairs. And
hmm
it's like Michael Jordan, gambling, cigar. Like this guy, you watch the Michael Jordan thing. Everyone loves Michael Jordan, but man,
hmm
he's like gambler. He's like, he can't go a minute with, and good for him. He owns it, right? He doesn't care. He's not, but
hmm
here's the other thing. If you have shame around it, that's the key. If you don't have shame around it and you can own up to whatever you want to do and you love it, great.
hmm
You're happy, no
hmm
worries. But if you
hmm
are ashamed of your behaviors, your actions, this part of you, and you're trying to push it away, that's what we're talking about right
That's
now.
where you lean in.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Michael Jordan's ashamed of his addictive personality. I think he
hmm
loves it and he'll take it
hmm
everywhere. He'll gamble,
hmm
he'll have fun, he'll have cigars. And
hmm
that again, there's power in that,
hmm
right? There's power in saying, this is me, take it or leave it. I'm proud of myself. It's when you say I'm ashamed of how I'm showing up. That's
hmm
when there's a problem.
And I think that the scariest part, Ian, as I'm sure you would agree, right, is we don't know what's going to happen when we actually address these things. For example, the conversation with your wife, right?
Yeah.
You don't know how your wife is going to respond to you opening up about these things,
Mhm.
right? The somebody listening doesn't know when other people are involved, right? But that's not what you can control, right? Because what you can control is you doing what needs to be done in order for you as the individual to actually become free. And and there's sometimes there's a then it gets kind of, how do I even say this? Sometimes there is like how much actually is how much you say until the point where there's actually like maybe it's more detrimental
Yeah.
to overshare some things. I think that's a conversation to be had with whoever you're speaking with
That's right.
about things.
That's right. It's you need to have a professional facility,
Correct.
right? I had my
Correct.
thing. Well, what do you want to disclose? We'll disclose everything, but you don't need these little details here or there because
Yeah.
that actually doesn't do any good. So again,
Right.
having somebody guide you through whether it's alcohol, whether it's
hmm
shame, whether it's anxiety, whether it's imposter syndrome, like this is the beauty of coaching is
Yeah.
like they know how to take you through what
hmm
you need to do and what you don't need to do, and the path will work if you're
hmm
committed to taking
hmm
action. That's the big
hmm
if, and most
hmm
people aren't.
But then doing that action that you're committed to doing, as scary as it will be, right? And then just letting go of what the potential consequences might be or maybe won't be, right?
Mm.
You just don't know, which is scary because it's not within our control, but that's not what you can control, right?
On
Uh
the other side of
yeah.
fear is freedom.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Everything you want in life is on the other side of it.
That's
It's
right.
just you didn't even know that you did until you go and experience the fear, and you're like, holy shit, this side is so much better, and there's so much more freedom and lightness, and
Yes.
like it's just quite simply a feeling that's hard to describe unless you just like truly go through it. And it's like I just have this experience with the more like the harder and more fearful and frightening that conversation, the more like it is directly proportional to the amount of
I've
freedom and
I've
liberation.
literally gotten to the point now where if I feel angst or fear or like a little bit of holding back on something,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
lean in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's like you got to do it. It's like
Hmm.
a trigger to do it versus not to do it. It's the
Hmm.
opposite. Yesterday, this is the weirdest thing happened. Last thing, and then we can wrap with. I know you have a
Yeah.
couple questions, but yesterday, there was a guy and he wanted coaching, and I couldn't quite figure out what he wanted or why he
Mm,
wanted it. He just seemed lost. He just
mm,
seemed lost,
mm,
and he was doing great in sales, but he was single and he kind of was drifting and he was traveling all over the place, and he just. I'm like, what's not working? It sounds like you got a great life. You go live in Europe, go digital nomad,
right.
making over $500,000. Like, what's the problem? He's like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like something's missing. And I kind of like walked him through what I think I could help him with is clarity
Hmm.
and sense of purpose and spiritual faith, right? Because he mentioned he was Christian and I walked him there. So that all sounds great. And the next day, we had a call scheduled and he in the morning he basically I read scripture every morning. In the morning, it was the parable of the prodigal son
Yep.
in the Bible, and that's a lost son
Hmm.
who comes back to his father, and it's symbolic of the father being God. Like we're lost until we come back to God. God's been waiting for us the whole time. This is a very spiritual journey, and
Hmm.
when you get lost and you drift, and then you come back to God, God has open arms, and that's what the parable of the prodigal son is. And I wanted to send it to him. I wanted to send it to him, but I hesitated because he hadn't
Yeah.
signed up yet for the
Yeah.
course. I'm like, I don't want to be too much. I don't want to tell him he's lost. Like, I
Hmm.
felt really weird, but I just had this deep, deep feeling of like, I'm going to help him guide to like coming back home to
Hmm.
his spirit. And I'll read you the text from him. Before I said anything, before anything happened, he sends me um, a a track, right? And it's called Run to the Father. And he said, did this track ever hit your playlist? And it was a Christian music about coming back to God. And that
Wow.
morning, I had read about the prodigal son. I said, never heard it before, but it's beautiful. And I left him a long voice note. I'm like, I cannot believe you said this. I was just going to
That's
send you this
crazy.
prodigal son, but I held back.
Hmm.
This is what we're on the same wavelength. And then he literally leaves me a voice note that said, as my voice note was coming in, he was listening to this song that I was there when my voice note came in to hear it again. And my voice came over it, over the song on Spotify, playing over like a dub over the main song he was listening to. And he started bawling and tearing. He's like, that's when I knew you were the right
Wow.
coach for me. And we
Wow.
were like on the same energetic wavelength. And
Hmm.
so,
Hmm.
again, the thing you're thinking or your instinct of like what you need to do is like always spot on. So even though I was like a little nervous about sending, I didn't want to skip. That was spot on. And he actually
Hmm.
beat me to it
Hmm.
energetically. And he's,
Hmm.
in another state. So it's like the stuff is your gut and what you need to
Hmm.
do is always spot on. And that's God and your moral compass guiding you to be the person you're meant to be. And again, this is a powerful conversation. I hope I'll
Hmm.
share it out with my group. I hope a lot of
Hmm.
people listen to it. But there is a life for you that you can only dream of,
Hmm.
waiting on the other side of your
Hmm.
fear, waiting on the other side of you facing the thing that you've been running from your whole life.
That gut instinct is so like the moral compass of what that is a very real thing, Ian. That gut instinct, lean into that. And thank you for sharing that. You were tapped is what it sounds like. You were tapped. Um,
I feel tapped every day, and
yeah,
that's my prayer is God
yeah.
use me in the way because I didn't go through all
Hmm.
of this just to
Hmm.
keep it to myself. I went through this for a reason, and that
Hmm.
reason is unfolding
Hmm.
every day, and
Hmm.
it's getting more and more clear to me. And it's to save is such a strong word, but to give hope and to inspire people to live in a way that truly is joyful and fulfilling
Hmm.
versus going through the motions and
Hmm.
asking, is this all? Is this all for life? So
Hmm.
um
I
That's
think
that's my mission.
the joyful and fulfilling and rewarding. And the other word that comes to my mind that we talk about often with my executive coach therapist is aligned, right?
Yes,
Because
yes.
aligned, it's such a powerful word because it's
Mhm.
true to you and your
Yeah,
true north.
I use integrity. Within
Okay.
integrity of your
Yeah.
values. So integrity is, I have a copyright on this. It's called the integrity gap. And the
Hmm.
integrity gap is the difference. I say copyright because you won't, if you Google Ian Koniak integrity gap, there's videos on it and there's
Mm.
US copyright because it was so powerful. I'm like, this is the one thing I actually want to protect because it's such a powerful concept. And I'm proud of that, right? That it's
Hmm.
like it's mine. But the integrity gap is the distance between you on one line. If people are seeing this on YouTube or whatever, it's the actual your values and how you live your values. And the other line right here is your reality. It's your actions and behaviors. So if your values are I'm hardworking, but your actions and behaviors are I'm procrastinating, I'm lazy, I'm not doing the thing I need to do, you will feel a guilt and shame, right? You can call it the
Hmm.
shame gap if you want. But if your values are hardworking and you're not working hard, you will feel out of alignment. The alignment is the literally the two lines are the same. You're living your values. If your values are healthy and you're not going to the gym and you're eating poorly, you will feel again out of alignment. You will feel
Hmm.
unfulfilled. You will feel shame. If your values are honest and you're hiding things from, you're living a lie, you're not being honest with yourself, your boss, your partner on anything, you will feel like we have these values which are God instilled, the way we're born with, which is honesty, integrity, hard work, authenticity, right? Service. And if we're not living that way, we'll feel it. And we're like, well, what is it? I don't know what it is. Well, write down your values and then look at your actions and behaviors in each of those areas, right? If you're spiritual, but you say your value spirit, but you feel disconnected from God, that's where, in all you need to do is bridge the integrity gap. Say, where am I out of alignment with my values in my day to day life? And when your values match your actions and behaviors, you feel a sense of peace
Hmm.
that
Peace.
truly is a level of success that is greater than any sales deal size or a W
Hmm.
2 or income can
Hmm.
ever deliver.
Hmm.
And that's the truth. And again, I'm supposed to be doing a bunch of work now. We're going over, but I don't care because this is aligned with my value of service. So my other stuff's like admin work. It's like if I don't do it, it is what it is, right?
Hmm.
But you need to know your values and
Hmm.
live your values. And if you do that, you will feel a true sense of peace and fulfillment.
Hmm. It's almost like, going back to your moral compass. Like you know when you are when that gap is wide, when that gap is closed, right? And it's, that is living in alignment with your true authentic self, kind of going back
Right.
to kind of this whole theme. So
You got it.
Ian, we can quite the conversation, man. We can roll into the final questions here. And it's funny because, in our brief outline, we had the integrity gap in there, and we
Yeah.
came full circle and we
Well, you
knocked
said
it.
alignment, so I had to throw it in.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's
Because
just that it's just such a word that is, what is, it's like I've gone away in my work with my therapist, I've gone away from thinking about things as good or bad, but more of what is right and true for you,
yeah,
right? And what is not true and what is not right for you. And that is like an instinctual feeling and an alignment sort of feeling, right? And so that's kind of
right.
how we've been thinking about decisions or next moves or feelings or emotions, right? It's like it's not that it's good or bad, it just is what is right and true for you in that moment. And now it's like, what do we want then to go, how do we want to process it? And also, what do we want to do about it, in order to shift into, a more
Yeah,
aligned.
no judgment. Nothing's
Yeah.
better or worse than the other, right? It's
Thank
just
you.
it's what your values are. It's
Thank
what
you.
you value. And are
Yep.
you in integrity with your values or not? So for
Yep.
anyone curious, just Google integrity gap in Koniak. I have a whole video on it. You can go through and fill out your own integrity gap and see
Mhm.
where you can align in a more holistic way.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Seeds of Success podcast. If you got to the end of this episode, can you please do me a huge favor and leave a 5-star rating and review? This helps me be able to reach out to bigger guests and also be able to get access to special events and activities that otherwise would not be possible without your support. So if you could please take just 3 seconds and leave a 5-star rating and review, it would mean the world to me, and I will see you on the next episode.